I help frustrated job seekers successfully navigate the job search and interview process. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how to improvise during a job interview, even when the truth won't cut it. There's a moment in every job interview where the script breaks. You get a question that makes your stomach drop, a question you didn't prepare for, one you can't answer cleanly. That's the moment where most people blow it. But some people, they figure out how to improvise. Today, I'm going to tell you about John and the day he made a decision that changed everything, a decision most people would never admit to. Let's talk about what really happens behind closed doors in job interviews and what you need to do when the truth just won't cut it. Here's John's backstory. He's a friend of mine. John is sharp, Ivy League educated. He was in pharmaceutical sales at the time, and he worked for a big name company. We'll leave it at that. He was young, ambitious, and in his words, completely miserable. He had taken a job in Augusta, Georgia, and it just didn't fit. Small town, slow pace, not his scene. He asked for a transfer. They said no. So he did something most people would never do. He quit, packed up, moved back home to Chicago. And here's the kicker. He didn't work for 2 years. No freelancing, no side hustle, no fake LLC to pad his resume. John just lived. Starbucks, the gym, Barnes & Noble. He read books, cleared his head. It was supposed to be a short break, but time passed and passed. And one day he looked at his bank account and realized it's time to go back to work. But that 2-year gap, it followed him everywhere. Now, John wasn't lazy. When he decided to get back in, he went hard. He targeted medical device sales this time, a higher paying, more competitive industry. He studied the market. He practiced interview questions, worked on his pitch. He came to me for help. I coached him through tough scenarios, but every time he got in the room, the question came up. What were you doing for the last 2 years? And every time he told the truth, that he had moved back to Chicago, took time off, and lived simply. And every time, the interview died. They nodded politely, said they'd be in touch. They weren't. Eventually, John reached a breaking point. He called me and said, "Mark, I'm not getting anywhere telling the truth." And then he told me his plan. He was going to say that his father had a stroke and that he had moved back home to Chicago to take care of him, that he helped run a small family business during that time, and that his dad had recently passed away. And now he was ready to get back to work. Of course, none of this was true. His father didn't have a stroke. His father didn't have a family business. His father didn't pass away. It was all a lie. I paused, told him I couldn't endorse it, that it was a slippery slope, but he'd made up his mind. And you know what happened? In his next interview, they asked what he'd been doing for the past 2 years, and he told them that story. And they hired him. Now listen, I'm not telling you this to justify lying. I don't recommend it. John didn't feel good about it either. But here's the real takeaway. He realized that the truth wasn't enough, that logic didn't matter, that hiring managers don't reward honesty if it makes them uncomfortable. They want a story they can sell upstairs. The moment John stepped out of just being honest and into strategic storytelling, the whole game changed. This is what improvisation really means in an interview. Reading the room, managing perception, delivering a narrative that answers the question and makes the interviewer feel comfortable moving forward with you. Most people get so caught up in what really happened that they forget the goal is making the hiring manager say, "I want to keep talking to this person." So here's the truth. At some point in your next interview, you're going to get hit with a question you didn't see coming. The people who win in that moment, they don't freeze. They don't overshare. They improvise. And if you want to learn how to do that without crossing the line, if you want to skip the guessing and fast forward to interview success, I've included the link to my full interview training course in the video description. Because it's not just about telling the truth. It's about telling the story that gets you hired. I help frustrated job seekers successfully navigate the job search and interview process.